Hello, everybody. Before we start, let's do a little exercise. I will just ask you to close your eyes and just think about yourself in a room with someone explaining you the challenges, their personal challenges, their family challenges, like the person literally crying, and you giving them answer, supporting them, like counseling them to overcome those challenges and to become better person. This is you in the future. This is you when you'll be graduating from Stanford University from your Master in Art of Counseling and Spirituality. You can open your eyes now. My name is Chris Adam Siao. I am specialist recruitment here at Stanford University. And today I am with my wonderful team. My director here, Rihanna, she's like best. My coworker Chanel, she's specialist of recruitment. Also, she'll be moderating the session, and she'll be helping the person online. She'll be their voice today. And we have also with us one of our colleagues from the admission office, Gabrielle. She's wonderful. She knows everything about like admission criteria for this program, probably for all the programs here. And we also have the professor Cynthia. She's also the best. Everybody here is just wonderful. And she knows everything about the program. So she will be the person who will tell us anything you need to know about the program, how that will be, and like what we can do to succeed in this program. The goal of this program is to train specialists who guide and counsel individuals, family, and couple regarding their value, their spiritual life, and the individual or couple dynamics also. So this program prepare people to a career in research, and there's two concentration: the one in individual counseling and the one in couple and family. The way the program is, it's just simple. This is in 5 terms full time. If you are doing it full time, so there is 21 units of compulsory courses, and but in the individual concentration and in the couple and family, there is 24 units of compulsory courses. We also have a 15 unit of clinical training. This is like already the best part of the program. You will be doing in the action, you will be like learning in the action, seeing clients and practicing with them. We also have elective courses. So for the one who are doing individual counseling, there's 3 units of elective courses. For the one in couple and family, there's no elective courses because you guys will already be doing like 24 units in the concentration. And we also have the thesis option. This is for the VVIP person. So this one is no guarantee. The way it's worked is you need to be admitted to the program first. And when you successfully complete line unit, you can then ask to your director to be in the thesis option, and they will evaluate your academic standing and everything to see if you can go to this option or not. So now I will let my coworker Gabriel tell you more about the admission criteria.
All right, so good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight in this info session. My name is Gabrielle, and I'm an admissions officer here at St. Paul University. I was also previously a part of the recruitment team, so I do have quite a bit of knowledge on this program and the criteria. First of all, I just want to thank the recruitment team for organizing this event tonight, especially a special thank you to Chris for being such a great host, and of course, a special thank you to Professor Vidado for helping us out tonight. So my job here tonight is to kind of help you navigate through the very specific admission criteria that comes with this program and help you prepare your application for the following fall trimester. So first of all, to be admissible for any master's program at St. Paul University, we are looking for a bachelor's degree of 120 units, which is a 4-year degree. Now, there are exceptions to the rules. You can have the equivalent of a 4-year degree. For example, if you have a 3-year BA, you can also complete the additional year's worth of university studies, either in the form of a certificate program, as a special student completing additional courses, or if you've completed a 2-year college or CEGEP program before your BA, that also will compensate for the extra year of studies. So within your bachelor program, we're looking for 48 units, which is, if I'm not mistaken, 16 courses in human and social sciences in general, and we also accept health sciences in this category. So some examples, we accept theology, communications, conflict studies, etc. It's not limited to these topics, of course. And then within these 48 units in social sciences, we are looking for some very specific prerequisites. So this is the very important part to remember for your application. So you will need to have 18 units, which is 6 courses in psychology. For this criteria, we can accept courses offered at any recognized university as long as they're offered by a school or department of psychology. So normally the course codes for these courses would be something along the lines of PSY, PSYC, anything of that sort. At St. Paul University, our psychology courses are the IPA courses, so any course offered by the program in human relations and spirituality would be accepted here. After that, we're also looking for 6 units in sociology or social work, or it can also be 2 additional courses in psychology. So once again, for a course to be considered a sociology or social work course, it would have to be offered by a recognized university in a faculty or department of sociology or social work. And then last but not least, we're also looking for 12 units in theology, religious studies, or spirituality. So here we have a little bit more wiggle room for the types of courses that we can accept. So of course, if you're taking a course that's offered by a department of theology or religious studies, we will definitely be accepting that course. We can do exceptions for any courses offered by other departments as long as theology or spirituality is the main focus of the course. Some examples would be philosophy of religions, that's accepted, sociology of religion. If the word religion, theology, faith, spirituality is in the title of the course, it will be accepted. If the course doesn't mention these terms in the title, but that you believe that it should be considered a spirituality course, in that case, we encourage you to submit the course descriptions along with your application. So if we can see through the course description that faith or spirituality is an important topic of the course, it can also be accepted. The next admission criteria is to have an admission average of 70% or higher. At the master's level, the way that we calculate an admission average is based on the last 60 units completed at a university level. So that's the equivalent of 2 years of full-time study. I know that in some universities, such as Carleton and maybe a few other universities in Ontario, the credit system is a little different. If you completed a 0.5 credit course, that's the equivalent of a 3 credit course at St. Paul. So you can keep that in mind when calculating your own average. Next, you need to submit the required documents along with your application. So first of all, we will require the official transcripts of all of your post-secondary studies. So even if it's at the college level, we do require those. When you first submit your application, you don't need to have official copies. You can send us whatever copy you have on hand. Just make a scan and send it to us by email or photocopy, that's fine. However, if you are offered an admission, in that case, we'll require the official copy afterwards. You'll also need to have 2 letters of recommendation from professors, ideally from professors. If you don't have access to some of your professors, if you studied a long time ago, we can also accept some letters from a professional contact, but it is recommended if you are able to do so to get them from professors. Yeah.
Do you consider college professors or is it just university?
College professors can be accepted, yeah. There's also an autobiographical questionnaire that you'll need to fill out. So if you go on the admission steps on our website, you'll have the links to all the templates that you'll be needing for your application. So that's available there. It's just questions regarding your motivation to apply for the program mainly. And then we're also looking for a resume just to have an idea of your background. Very important to remember, the deadline to apply is on February 1st. So it's earlier than most of our other programs. So if you don't meet the admission criteria, you do have a few options. If you're just missing a few prerequisites, the best option would be to apply as a non-degree student. So a non-degree student is someone who isn't enrolled in a specific program here at St. Paul, but you can just take a couple courses here and there to fulfill the prerequisites in the meantime before beginning the program. At St. Paul, a middle degree student can take up to 4 courses per trimester. We also have some undergraduate programs that offer these prerequisites. We have the BA in Human Relations and Spirituality, as well as the Certificate in Human Relations and Spirituality. The difference is that the BA is a longer degree. It's usually a 4-year degree. If you already have a BA or another bachelor's degree before applying to this program, you can get some equivalencies. So most people would only have 2 years left to complete this program. And then the certificate program is a 10-course program, and it's only available part-time. So that's also something to keep in mind. The certificate is a really good option for those who have maybe just a 3-year BA and need that extra year. And the BA is a good option for those who are missing a larger number of units, either as specific prerequisites or even those general human sciences units that are required. We do recommend that the prerequisites are completed by April 30th. That's our official deadline to complete prerequisites. However, there are exceptions that are permitted. So I'll tell you about the exception that is permitted this year. It's important to keep in mind that from one year to another, that exception can vary. So if you're not applying for the following year, but the one after, you'll need to recheck at that point what the exception is for that specific year. So for this year, the exception is that you can complete up to 3 missing courses during the summer term before beginning the program. Of course, we do recommend, if you're able to do so, to complete them by April 30th. When you're applying, so the deadline, as I mentioned, is February 1st. At that moment, we'll need to have your final grades from all of the courses that you've completed. If you're currently enrolled for the winter term, you'll need to submit a proof of enrollment so that we can consider those courses in the prerequisites as well. Keep going backwards. Also, I wanted to mention that in the admission workbook that we've distributed here, the last page, there is a self-assessment tool that you can use to kind of go through your own transcripts and see what is missing there. We unfortunately don't offer any pre-assessments before receiving an application, so this is a tool that you can use on your own. If you want to have an assessment of your transcripts before the winter term so that you can prepare your enrollment, in that case, you can submit your application before the winter break. So we usually open admissions by the end of October, sometimes early November, depending on the year. If you submit your application right away, we'll be able to let you know before the winter break what prerequisites you're missing so that you can plan your enrollment. There we go. And then once again, the deadline to apply is February 1st. By that date, you'll need to have submitted all of your documents, including all of the transcripts, as we mentioned. And you'll need to have paid the application fee, in order for us to evaluate your.
What is the fee?
The fee for the application is $105 Canadian.
The previous slide, you were saying that how one of the options is non-degree students. In terms of having access to courses, are they in any kind of disadvantage? Like, let's say if there's a limited number of students per class, do they have the same access or they are not in priority?
So it depends at what point you submit your application for a special student. It's always on a first come, first served basis.
Okay.
Some courses that have a more limited number of seats may prioritize students in the program. But as far as I'm aware, it's usually not an issue. We don't fill up the maximum number in our courses normally.
Just to mention, I just forgot to mention at the beginning, but the question, we have a question and answer period at the end of the presentation, where you'll be able to ask all your questions. Same thing online, you can just write your question in the chat and you answer them at the end. The session is also recorded and all the participants will receive a link to the recording.
So the last step of the admission process would be the interview. So on the admission side, we evaluate your academic credentials, and if you qualify, if you meet all of the admission requirements, your file will be submitted to the faculty, and then the committee of professors will evaluate the files and invite people for interviews. Normally, the interviews take place around end of April, early May, if I'm not mistaken.
And we moved them up a little bit. We're trying to do them earlier, and that's why the deadline of February 1st is so important, is that we would like to send out letters at that time.
Yeah, okay.
That's what we're aiming.
So the interviews would be more like end of March, early April?
Yeah.
Perfect, all right. And then, yeah, we start sending out offers and answers around April. There's also a waiting list for this program. So for those who don't receive an offer of submission and don't receive a rejection either, you can have a spot in the waiting list. And then as spots become available, if other students decline their offer or if they don't end up meeting the conditions of their offer, spots become available, and then we will send offers to the people on the waiting list. Keep going backwards. Okay, there we go. So that sums up the admissions side of the presentation. We'll keep the questions for the end of the session, but I know it's a lot of information, so we'll give you a few moments to process that in the meantime.
Yeah. So, though we know about the admission criteria, and we are wondering, okay, what about the tuition fee? How it's worked out, say everything. So, it's really simple. The tuition fees for Ontario students, that will be 2,532. There is an ancillary fees for like all our students of 1,594. So this one is really for the counseling center because this is like a great space. There is camera, the session are recorded, then you can just watch the session after. This is, you should just get your admission, and you will see. And for the student for the out of the province, this is 3,110, and for international students, this is 9,088. So yes, so again, we have scholarship for our students. So if you get an admission average of 85%, you can get up to like $2,000 scholarship for 3 terms. So that this is a total value of $6,000 scholarship. We also have like some other scholarship you can apply to. There is also like a subvention for the one who are doing thesis also. So you can just reach out to the admission to the recruitment office, and we'll be happy to give you all the information about everything regarding scholarship and financial aid. So now we'll talk about the characteristics of the program, and for that, I'll just let the first person in the room talk about it.
Right. Do I go over here? I'm assuming there's a camera for the online. So welcome. I love seeing the full room. I think this is looking forward to seeing you next year. I want to start just by introducing myself. I'm a prof here. I've been here more than 10 years. And teaching in the practicum mostly. Now I've taught courses in this program, but in the past few years I've been teaching first year practicum. So I would see you your first year practicum. And so one of you asked a question earlier about class sizes. You know, is it hard to get into these classes? And one of the things that I've experienced teaching at the VA and at the MA is the privilege of getting to know our students. And I think that makes a difference here at St. Paul's. And all programs are great. I'm certain all universities are wonderful, but this university allows us, and you, I think it's a privilege for you as well as a student to be able to speak to your prof and for them to know what your name is. So having taught large classes at other universities, it was quite a luxury when I got here. To be able to recognize my students and to work with them one-on-one and to be able to receive emails like that. So I don't know if there's a cap. I don't think so, but I'm not going to speak for the program. But I just wanted to reflect my experience in kind of being able to teach here for the time that I have. In practicum, he talked about ancillary fees, and he said it's for the counseling center. Indeed, it is. The first year that you start, the first semester that you start supervision, which means that you practice first with your colleagues at the counseling center while you're recorded. And you practice in class with us, profs, and we give you feedback. And then you have a clinical supervisor, and you start seeing clients your first year, right away. Not a whole bunch, you know, we hold your hand. It can be scary, you know, one at a time. We give you lots of supervision, but to be able to pay for that supervision, this is why there's a salary piece as well. Because we hire experts, we hire seasoned therapists in the community to come in and supervise you. So you will have clinical professors who practice, but you will also have supervisors who are practicing as well.
Excuse me, Cynthia, can you speak a little louder?
Oh, we'll speak louder. Where's the mic that I should be?
It's connected
It's
with
over there, right?
Okay, I can hear you, just speak a bit louder. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So I'll start off with, I just wanted to start off with that, because it is a beautiful counseling center, and you highlighted it well. So our program, you know, people say, oh, you know, it's a counseling and spirituality program, but you get trained in psychotherapy. And so it's a psychotherapy training program. And what we pay attention to, and this is where the spirituality comes in, and that's a little different for different people. It might be more religion oriented, more personal reflection oriented. It can take on many different forms. Worldviews can play a large part, but how a person experiences their spirituality is a really, really important piece of who they are. So we can learn to regulate emotions, we can learn to change thoughts, we can learn to modify behaviors, but they're all parts of the whole person. And spirituality is part of that whole person. And this is why we say it's an integral approach, where we welcome the entirety of the person walking through the room. And we're not just working on pieces of who they are necessarily. Although we do that sometimes. Sometimes there is, you know, really good need to change negative thinking or self-criticism or things like that. We do that, but we like to take a holistic approach and integration. And so this is where that kind of spirituality fits in, because I often get the question, does this mean that we have to be religious with our clients? Absolutely not. The client will tell you what their needs are, and we're open to considering all of their worldviews and how those worldviews influence their experience and their experience of others. So, integral approach considers the personal, professional, and spiritual development of students. This is a very different program than a math program. You know, in math, we tell you, 2 + 2 = 4. At least that's what I learned. Here, we invite you to reflect on who you are in interaction with another person. And there's not necessarily a right or wrong, but there is what was the therapeutic intent. And so this program invites you to do a lot of reflection, because we need to know what we're bringing to the room as well. So who am I in this relationship at this moment with this person will differ every time I have a therapeutic encounter. But I need to be aware of what I'm bringing in, because I don't want to make my problems their problems. I want to genuinely hear and receive what the experience of that person is. I want to be curious to their experience. I don't want to make assumptions, because their experience, even if we've lived through the same thing, may be very, very different than mine. And so when we say we consider your development, is we invite you to reflect on what your worldviews are, what your values are, how they influence your being with the other. Not so that we can change it, but so that we can bring awareness of it in interaction. And that's a founding principle of countertransference, right? So that we're not projecting our ideas and how we think they're feeling. We are genuinely aware of what's coming up for us and able to mark it and park it a little bit so that we can remain available for and so in that sense, it is a transformative experience in this program. You learn to become a therapist, and a therapist primarily is effective in the presence that they bring and who they are as a therapist. Not just what they do, all that fancy stuff, the techniques, the cool visualizations, whatever. It will be effective if you have a therapeutic presence. And the research tells us the therapeutic alliance and the relationship that we build as a human is actually one of the most important factors of change. So we can have lots of fancy training and do lots of fancy things in session, but primarily the therapeutic presence and the therapeutic self. And so we become therapists in this program, and it allows us to take a different view of our relationship, because we're very different therapists than we are friends, moms, dads, cousins, very, very different. All right. And, well, of course, there's theoretical courses because we need to know what we're doing. And so those are really important too. Why are we doing what we're doing? And what are the different ways we can attempt to do the same thing from very different entry points? And so it's important to know that, because our clients, you know, if we say, oh, I'm very CBT, I'm very cognitive behavior therapy, I work with thoughts and behaviors, and that's how I work. Well, you might get a client who is living an existential struggle and who's struggling with their life circumstance and what that requires of them and their core values. Maybe a different approach might be helpful with this client, right? Maybe we want to be a little bit more supportive, humanistic, curious. We want to be maybe a little bit more self-compassion focused. Perhaps we'll take a different approach, an existential approach, or third wave CBT approach, or something that will incorporate a little bit more mindfulness, perhaps. And so we need to have this baggage of knowledge and know the different points of entry so that we can be effective with the different kinds of things. And so that's theoretical courses. They're just as fun as the practical courses. And the research ones as well. Yeah, we'll talk about those, but I've taught them for a long time. I did teach them for a long time. But the research courses, we angle it to practice. So as clinicians, we always need to know, what is it that we're doing and why are we doing it? Why will this be effective for this client? And if we can't consume research effectively, how do we know what's going on or what's effective or what's helpful? And so their research class is more oriented towards that. And we talk clinically in our research class as well, because we learn to consume research to support our practice and produce it too. Okay, that's my side of the research. It's not well. So I'll speed it up because I don't know how much time we have. Okay. And then I'll answer some of your questions if you have some for me or Gabrielle. Master the skills and techniques to help people in need. We teach you to be psychotherapists. When you graduate from this program, you are eligible. Our program is accredited by the CRPO, which is the College of Registered Psychotherapists of Ontario. So you are licensed. You're automatically eligible for licensed practice here in Ontario when you graduate from our program. So that's great. Because of the fact that we provide you with so much clinical supervision and that it begins in your first year, you also have hours accumulated that go towards your accreditation, and you have supervision hours that also go towards your accreditation. And that becomes very, very helpful in moving you along from a qualifying status to a full independent practice RP. So what do you get? Good understanding of interpersonal dynamics, of course. That's the core of what we do, and that is what therapy is. And 150 hours of supervised face-to-face client contact to graduate from our program, or for us to be able to say, good job, we endorse this student. And we do that for the college, right? We're accredited. So for us to say, yeah, the student's great, they completed the courses, they've done great. Well, we require 150 hours of supervised practice. It seems like a lot, but if you actually calculate it throughout your 5 semesters, I think it's 1 client a week. So, okay. We supervise you for that. You see them throughout the program. In the summer is that fifth semester, right? That extra semester that's there. The summer is considered a full-time semester in this program, but all you do is see clients at the clinic. There are no formal courses unless you're taking some, which you can. But for our program, you're doing your practice. And so it gives you 4 clients a week at the counseling center. Under supervision, you get 3 hours of supervision per week. You're easily accumulating these hours. You're gaining experience slowly so that you're not kind of like thrown into an externship and you've got 3 months to do 75 hours of client contact. A lot of pressure, you don't have experience. We kind of gradually do that for you. So you start off with 1 client, and when you're ready, you ask for the certified psychotherapists supervise student clinical work. All of the supervisors that you have here are qualified supervisors according to the college. And we attest that to the college for you. So the hours that you complete, they are considered supervised hours. We hire qualified supervisors, and the CRPO has very distinct criteria as to who can be a supervisor in terms of years of experience, training, etc. So we ensure that we're always qualified RPs for you. Clinical training and supervision takes place at the counseling center, which is equipped with the latest technology, and that is true. We have a beautiful counseling center, and we're lucky to have that. And we're the only training program in counseling and psychotherapy in the area that has that. And so we have this beautiful space. You start seeing clients there. Some students might sometimes choose, to do an additional experience as an externship. So they might say, okay, I've seen clients here. I'd like to go do an externship at children's family services or a specialized area where they feel like they would get a different kind of experience. You can do that, certainly. It is additional to the program, however, because you can do your entire training and all of your hours right here at our counseling center. And what I try to highlight to students is we have our whole careers to get experience in different areas, but our counseling center services the community. And so you are seeing various issues that are presenting issues. You're working with different supervisors who can provide you different perspectives. And so there is a wide range of presenting issues that we see at the counseling center simply because of the fact that we service the community at large. And if you have an interest in working with someone who's at some point, more in second year, I think in first year, we triage them carefully for you. But let's say in second year, so developing a specific interest in, working with people who have personality disorders or working with people who have depression and you can communicate that to your training staff, and we match clients. So you can do all of your training here, but you can also do an extension if you'd like. Located on St. Paul University. Diverse clientele. And what's fantastic about this center is that, and I refer people here all the time, is that there's a sliding scale. And so there's a fee for service, and that can fluctuate, usually this way, based on their need and their capacity to pay. And so there's a system set up at the counseling center, and it goes with the values of the program, goes with the values of the university, and rendering psychotherapy services accessible to as many people as we can. At the end of your program, you get a professional certification, but I talked about the CRPO, which is like the regulating body. So they are the ones that regulate the profession. And so they're there to protect the public, but you also have the associations, which are there to kind of like support and you as a professional. And so you are also eligible for a CCTA membership, which is the Canadian Counseling and Psychotherapy Association. And they offer trainings, information, support, insurance, all of these, access to insurance, all of these things to support you as a professional. And so when you graduate, we do recommend that you join both. You have to join the CRPO to practice, however, because it's a regulated. Yeah, what do I do after I graduate from a program, a counseling program at St. Paul? We see that our students, they have very varying interests. Many of them go on to work in the community, in different counseling centers, and you will learn as you kind of navigate and go through this program, you will learn of all the different resources that exist and in the city, and all of the different centers that support different populations. And so a lot of our students go on to work in these centers after. Some of them will do externships and stay at those centers. Private practice, a lot of people go into private practice, and I think we have an ex-graduate here who's in private practice, and so a lot of our students do go on to join private practices and government, and we are in Ottawa. What we've learned is that the government actually does have a lot of positions for counselors, it seems, and some of them are counseling positions, specifically, and that require graduate degree training in counseling. And so we see some of our students go into those positions, and then some of them go into other positions in the government because we are in Ottawa. But this is typically where we're seeing our students land.
So thank you, everybody. So this is the public question.